Okay, we're now going to call the meeting to order. I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you could all please stand. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and then our next item is the roll call. If you could please call the roll.
Chairman Peters.
Here.
Vice Chair Heyman.
Present.
Director Itnire.
Here.
Director Rotora.
Here.
Director Vallejo.
Present.
Okay, thank you. Before we move on, I believe Director Heyman wanted to make a statement. I'll go ahead and turn it over to him.
Thank you, Chairman Peters. So I'd like to just make a brief comment today on the our hot mic issue that we had last month. So I just want to make it clear that, I don't condone profanity, the use of profanity in a public meeting. So I would ask that everybody please refrain from using profanity and mute your mics. We have been in discussion with staff on ways to, control or correct, something like this. And so staff has looked into it and advised us that April has the ability to mute individuals, and at that point they would have to turn on their mics to speak. And so we will do our best to, continue to maintain a professional business decorum at these meetings, which I would like to say it has been that way in my 3 years of being on this board. We haven't had any issues, so I'd like to see it continue for a longer period even in the future. So with that, that's all I have to say, and I'd like to then hand it back over to our new chair, Chairman Peters. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Director Heyman. Okay, our next item is the AB 361 finding. And for that, do we turn to Keith Lemieux?
Certainly. So once again, this is the item that you've seen before that continues the ability of the GA to use our hybrid remote teleconferencing. I don't think, again, there's not a I know the situation has unfortunately changed yet again regarding COVID, but I don't believe there's any current plan from the staff to shut down the public from attending the room where the meeting's being held. Currently, we happen to have most of the staff attending remotely simply for convenience and cost savings rather than for that reason. But in any case, we recommend that you approve this to allow teleconferencing both for the board but also for the committees. Excuse me. That concludes the report. Great,
thank you. And that is a item we need to vote on. Is that correct? Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Let's do a roll call vote.
Chairman Peters.
Aye.
Vice Chair Heyman.
Aye.
Director Itnire.
Aye.
Director Peters.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Director Rotora.
Aye.
Director Vallejo.
Aye.
Thank you. Our next item is public comment. This time is reserved for the public to address the board about matters not on this agenda. And no action will be taken on non-agenda items unless authorized by law. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Is there anyone that would like to address the board? Yes, sir.
Is it on? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, my name's Harold Manos. I'm a private well owner out in the county, and I received that notification of the lawsuit that the water district's bringing on everyone. Now, I'm like a lot of other people in the valley, I'm sure. I'm retired, and I'm not really interested in getting involved in a lawsuit that really shouldn't be affecting me. But I wanted to find out if there were any more comments that you could provide, well, other than waiting and going to the the workshop on the 26th at the Water District, or here it'll be, or trying to get a online answer from them. What can they actually do that you think they could do to us? I mean, can they come and cap our wells and make us pay the Water District to run piping to our property? Or, what? This is, I understand there were quite a large number of irate people at the meeting on the 7th, I think, the one that was reported on in the paper. And I just wanted to see if there were any comments that you could give that would might generally be keep the public from getting too irate like me. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to respond to that. I don't think we can make any comments right at this moment, but I do think that's a good point, and I don't know if that would be more appropriate for the GA legal staff or the Water District, but I'm sure we could work together and come up with some type of information or just kind of a Q&A type thing, frequently asked questions or something to help get a little bit more information out there on how this might impact people. So we'll look into that. Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address the board? Okay, seeing none in here, we'll go to the phones. Okay, caller, go ahead.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, this is Joshua Nugent from Mojave Pistachios. And I just wanted to remind everyone that several members of the public at the December board meeting encouraged the Groundwater Authority to reach out affirmatively to the DWR in response to their offer for facilitation services. We'd like to wholeheartedly echo their sentiments, and we hope that the Groundwater Authority decides to participate. We need all parties at the table, and the DWR is encouraging us to do so. So to that end, I would once again ask you guys what the status of your response to the DWR is. As a refresher, the director, Carla Namath, of the DWR, sent a letter in July to the current chair, Phil Peters, as well as the then chair, Scott Heyman. It was copied to Navy Commander John Battisti, the Navy Government Affairs Officer, Catherine Ostapuk, to Carol Thomas Kiefer of the GA, to the Water District, to Meadowbrook, to Cyril's, and Mojave Pistachios. I'm just going to read two short excerpts. The GSP and the rights to the groundwater in the basin are significant matters and are the subject of several pending lawsuits. The DWR also recognizes the role of agriculture in the local economy, and that impacts to the industry may impact the broader regional economy. Further down, it says, in light of the adjudication commenced by the Water District, the DWR encourages the litigating parties and other interested stakeholders to instead focus their efforts on developing a collaborative solution to the issues that are currently being litigated. The DWR goes on to say that they offer resources and they're ready to assist in such a collaborative process. So, to my knowledge, most of the parties in the GA have responded affirmatively and, dare I say, optimistically to the DWR. I'd also like to point out that the GSP has not been reviewed yet by the DWR. Finally, some member of the board expressed concern participating in the DWR process, given the ongoing litigation, but as I referenced above, the letter from the DWR specifically says that the litigation is the very reason the facilitation is needed. So again, I'd just like to say that we hope the GA decides to come to the table with the rest of the water community and work towards a lasting solution to achieve long-term sustainability. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I respond to that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Lemieux.
Yeah, I don't know why there's a perception that there's any mystery about the GA's response to this. The GA responded to DWR regarding a public facilitation, I think Mr. Markman sent out a letter, and I believe it may have been in October, it could have been in August, informing them that the GA can't participate and won't participate in a public facilitation, which is what was being offered, to discuss ongoing litigation, because that would waive attorney-client privilege, and it's not an appropriate forum for settlement discussions. Instead, the GA requested and requested of the parties that they consider a traditional mediation to resolve the adjudication. We put out that request, and we've never gotten a response to that request. So from the GA's perspective, the GA is waiting for the other parties to agree to come to the table. But I understand that, on the other side of the coin, as we just heard, the Water District is currently in the process of bringing new parties into the case, hundreds and hundreds of them. Those parties are going to have a say in whatever is resolved by the adjudication. So in another sense, I guess you could say it's premature, and I understand that, but we're eager and willing to participate in a mediation of the adjudication.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Lemieux. Are there any other callers on the line?
This is Jim. This is Jim.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, Jim, it looks like you're on twice, and it's creating an echo.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry, caller. Hold on just one moment. Mr. Markman, did you want to make a comment?
Hello.
It's not going to work until I have to get off.
Okay, we'll go to our caller first, and then we'll see if we can come back to you. Okay, caller, go ahead.
Yes, this is Renee Westelusk, and I have two questions. One, it was reported in the Bakersfield Californian in an article written by Lois Henry about groundwater sustainability plans that had already been reviewed and accepted. It stated the groundwater agencies, it says groundwater plans covering 4 other sub-basins in Sacramento and Ventura counties were given a stamp of approval by DWR on Thursday, November 18th. They included North and South Yuba groundwater plans as well as Oxnard and Pleasant Valley plans. Do you have any idea of when you're going to get a response from DWR about our groundwater sustainability plan approval, or if it will need fixes? Do you have any ballpark date when you expect to hear on our groundwater sustainability plan? That's my first question. And then the second one has to do with preliminary 2021 allotment of sustainability yield. It was published, I believe, in some documents the GA had back maybe in April or May of last year in 2021, and it talks about the Federal Navy Reserve. It's a chart, and it gives out the allotments of the Federal Reserve water rights that the Navy has claimed, and it spells out the actual amounts, like for the Navy, what they use, the domestic wells, the city of Ridgecrest, Kern County, Inyakern, small mutuals, Trona domestic, and then there's an allotment for the water district. Is there going to be a reallotment every year of the 7650, which is the sustainable yield, and how it's divvied up? Are we going to get another report for 2022? Because this was labeled 2021 allotment of sustainable yield. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I think the answer to the first question regarding the GSP evaluation is in law. DWR, I believe, is required to respond by January 31st of this year. They have, I believe, responded to 40 of 48 already, with the first one being about 6 months ago, or the first set, and then another big group within the last month or two. And we are in the last 8, I believe. You can go on the GSP portal, and you can look at the 8 that have not been approved, have not been evaluated, and I do expect to hear back by January 31st. That is the law, so we'll see how it goes.
And I would just like to remind the public this is the time for public comments. The question and answer part, this is not really what this is designed for. So if there are questions, you could submit it to the GA staff, and I'm sure that they'd be happy to work with you on getting an answer to those ahead of time. So are there any other callers on the phone? Caller, go ahead.
Yes, this is Mike Neal. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Once again, this is Mike Neal. So I'd just like to make comment on Mr. Heyman's prior statement. Was basically amounted to we're going to be sure that we cut the mics off so that people can curse our board members in private without being, happen to be overheard by the public. Well, you didn't get away with it last time. The big slip by what appears to be probably a staff member, as no voice is recognized as the one of the two online board members. And what I have to say about it is it's way too little and too late. That's the statement by Mr. Heyman today as far as what I think about it. At the meeting, that outburst should have been condemned, and an apology should have been given to both the public and Mr. Rotora, i.e. the Water District, who he's the representative for. But, of course, that didn't happen, and it had to turn to a member of the public to ask for an apology, which was met by complete and total silence, thus indicating the lack of moral backbone or integrity on the person who burst out with this foul-mouthed statement, and also demonstrating pretty much the same as such on the rest of the board members who just sat there and let it happen. Not a word. Well, what are we supposed to figure out from this? That you agree with the statement, or that you just think you need to allow such conduct without one single word of condemnation? Well, let me inform you, gentlemen, what you're obviously ignorant of. When you let one of your staff members give the middle finger to one of the board members, you likewise are letting them display such to the rest of the people in the Water District who Mr. Rotora currently represents on this GA board. Not just Mr. Rotora, but all the rest of us. And so I'd like to say you still have a chance, and you still can speak up, and you still can condemn this if you continue to remain silent. The rest of us out here in the city, who you are well aware of, are not happy whatsoever with many actions of this board in the past, can conclude that that's your attitude toward us. So you have your opportunity. I'll get off here and wait to see if you respond or not. Thank you.
Okay, and I echo what Mr. Director Heyman said. There's no place for that in a public meeting. It shouldn't have been said, but it was. There wasn't anything we could do about it at the time. Don't know who said it, and we asked nobody to repeat that type of behavior. And if we do, we'll deal with it as it comes. So, are there any other callers on the line? Okay. Seeing none, we'll now move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda item number 4A, approved minutes of board meeting of December 28th. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Okay, thank you.
Are we doing the consent agenda as a whole or just as one item? And
Yes, excuse me. I had my notes out of order here. Yes, we are approving the consent agenda item as a whole, or the consent agenda as a whole, excuse me. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Chairman Peters,
Aye.
Vice Chair Heyman,
Aye.
Director Itnire,
Aye.
Director Rotora,
Aye.
Director Vallejo.
Aye.
Thank you. We'll now move to item number 5, Water Resource Manager's Report. And do we have Steve Johnson on the line?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Chairman Peters.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead. And as we've done before, I will try to, and I know it's hard on the audience, but we'll do the best we can. Try to walk through the items under the Water Resource Manager Report, these PowerPoints, and we'll hopefully get the PowerPoints up. Happy New Year to everybody. I think we're all looking forward. I was at a board meeting again, a Water District board meeting this morning, and said the same thing. But we are certainly looking forward to having meetings this year, sooner the better, in person with the public. I miss seeing all of you board members and the public too. It's a lot different, and it's kind of getting difficult and getting old, but we're getting by. So I'll give you the Water Resource Manager report. Right off the bat, the Prop 1 status update. I'll let you know that Joseph Montoya, my staff, who's been normally giving this report, he's preparing for an invitation-only workshop today with DWR on the implementation projects grant funding that's being offered on preparing for providing an application for the Groundwater Authority for grant funding on the implementation projects. This is kind of a big deal. And as I said, it's invitation only. We will be on it. We were invited to be on it. We will be on it. He's preparing because they've asked for some material from us on projects and cost and things like that as part of the workshop. It's not part of the application, but it's definitely part of the workshop. So he's preparing for that, and I told him that I would do my best to present the slides on the Proposition 1 and 68 and recycle water, because those are his areas, and I'm familiar enough to go through it. I'll do the best I can if you have any questions. You'll recall, let's see, okay, so the first PowerPoint, Proposition 1. You'll recall that either the last meeting or the meeting before, Joseph did provide a summary table of all of the invoice, the application's invoice request that has been made to DWR and the current status and all the payments made. I'm not providing that today, but I want to let you know that we will keep that updated and bring that back to you. There's a lot of retention money that still needs to be applied for. We will make the application for that retention money at the appropriate time. I'll let you know, we will keep up on that. There are not many updates or changes from the last meeting on Prop 1 or Proposition 68. We've got 3 invoices under Prop 1, 10A, 11A, and 12A. A and B referred to our invoice. A is Prop 1, B is Prop 68. And we've got over almost 78,000 in 10A, almost 70,000, almost 80,000, I should say, almost 70,000 under 11A and a couple thousand under 12A. We still haven't heard back from DWR. I imagine that DWR staff is backed up, working on these GSP reviews and responses to their reviews on the draft GSPs that have been submitted, but we're really not getting much of a response from DWR. I'll let you know that talking to Joseph this morning, we will be contacting DWR and asking when we're going to be able to get responses to these applications and invoices for funding. We don't have any indications that they won't be funded, so we don't have any issues there. Typically, a draft goes in, we get comments back, and then they go in final. All of these have gone through that process, so I don't see a problem there. Down to Prop 68, which is the next PowerPoint. Again, 10B, 11B, and 12B are submitted, and at DWR. Not a lot of money there. This was only the $300,000 plus the $30,000 that we were able to. They were able to find funding for. We originally applied for $330,000, but they ultimately came up with the funding and added the additional $30,000. But we're looking at $3,000, about $3,500, and about $3,000 again for those applications invoices. Same situation. We're waiting for DWR. We are going to follow up with them. There was one item down there at the bottom regarding requested revisions with DWR to the grant funding. This is primarily, it doesn't say so, but it's basically related to the SDAC program, the Disabled Communities Program. And we are waiting for a response, a written response that would basically approve those revisions. I will let you know that we don't get to this point without going through a review and at least a verbal approval from the staff. Jennifer at the staff has given us verbal that she thinks the revisions are fine, but again, we're waiting for a written confirmation. As part of the Prop 68 funding. We do have deliverables that are due in April, and we will be having our April from the GA. We'll be having April Kigwin help us pull those together. Shouldn't be a big deal, folks. Just to let you know, Prop 68 was pretty much in arrears funding of things we'd already done. So the deliverables associated with Proposition 68 are things we've already done. We have them already. It's just basically packaging up and submit them. But they're not due until April of 2022. So that's what we've got under Prop 1 and Prop 68. If we move on to the Recycle Water Program, a new slide for Recycle Water. I can see it. It's good. 15 this week. Okay, walking through the Recycle Water Program. We did have a TAC meeting, a Zoom meeting, kind of remote in person. I thought it went very well. There's a TAC report later. I'll probably cover most of what happened at the TAC during the Water Resource Manager presentation under our PowerPoint slides because they're relevant issues that we talked about. I'll do a brief one maybe under the TAC, but I'll let you know that we're operating under sort of a very, very formal meeting, but as far as we met before under an actual meeting in the office with somebody taking notes and formal minutes and all of that, we're keeping it a little less formal. I have actually prepared draft notes from the meeting that we will review internally and then send to the TAC members that were there. So we'll get that, and then we'll get it out to the public and post it. So we will follow those procedures, but we're not quite there yet because it was just last week. The first item talks a little bit about some of the things we talked about at the TAC meeting. I'll cover those in just a minute. I'll let you know that Section 3 is essentially done in draft. It was going to be released to the TAC committee as of the 11th. Hasn't been sent out yet, but I just talked to Joseph this morning. It'll be out this week, either tomorrow or Friday morning, but it will be out this week, with comments still going to be due back toward the end of January. Section 24 will be released the week of the 24th. So we're moving forward on those two sections of the Recycle Water Study. So based on next steps, we're looking at continuing the work with the technical team and preparing the sections of the Recycle Water Study. It talks about discussing methodology for Section 5, which is establishing the evaluation criteria. There is work going on as we continue to work through the Recycle Water study on the project with the technical team that involves some preliminary ranking, which I'll let you know that we talked about that during the TAC meeting also. There is a technical team for the Recycle Water Study scheduled for tomorrow, team meeting, a remote call for tomorrow. I'll be on the call. We're preparing for that. We actually did receive, I just saw them today. I may have come in yesterday, but I just saw them today. We did receive some technical team comments on Section 2, just received those. And we'll be talking about those with the technical team tomorrow, so we're working on that. And just for interest, you'll see this when we put the notes together for the TAC committee meeting. Some of the topics, some of the things that came up that are relevant and important for you folks, for the board, the staff, and the folks in the audience to be aware of, we talked about. One of the items was a general agreement that essentially all of the options that we are looking at for beneficial use of recycled water, of the treated water coming out of the existing, and of course the upgraded wastewater treatment facility require tertiary treatment. So one of the comments was it should be a part of the basic program, even though the city is currently proceeding with an upgrade to the secondary treatment, certainly for capacity. One of the comments was for our work going forward for beneficial uses, we should be considering tertiary treatment as a minimum level of treatment in order to provide beneficial uses. So that is a comment that is being taken to the technical team. We also discussed on that same topic, tertiary treatment obviously requires more facilities. Beneficial uses, we're looking at a lot of beneficial uses. One of them is potential increased beneficial uses on the China Lake ground at the Navy base, naval base. The intent would be those uses would directly reduce groundwater pumping by the Navy, of which makes more water available, certainly for everybody. We were advised during the meeting from the Navy. Navy attended, John Kersey attended the meeting. And we knew it already, but I just wanted to provide this to the audience, that any changes to the existing agreement with the Navy for the wastewater treatment facility located on the base require coordination with the Navy. Certainly, the footprint and the easement, the land that is part of that agreement, the easement of the land to site the facility, any changes require coordination with the Navy. Any changes to the easements of pipelines going in and out require coordination with the Navy. We're aware of that, but it's an important comment during the TAC meeting. And then certainly any additional uses would be on the Navy base would be coordinated with the Navy. So again, an important comment. We had discussion provided by TAC members related to current and projected beneficial uses of the recycled water that's produced from the new wastewater treatment facility. One of the important ones to address is city's use of the wastewater for, just evaporation ponds for disposal, and certainly alfalfa fields, and making sure that those are properly quantified and that we make the best use of our best beneficial uses of the wastewater, again, tertiary treated wastewater that we're going to have available. We had comments on potential new technology for potential future, understanding this is future, direct use of wastewater, treated wastewater. This is full advanced treatment, and possibly even beyond full advanced treatment. So we've added that to the list of potential direct uses, and that will be discussed with the technical team. And then we certainly discussed project ranking, preliminary project ranking, and I think we got pretty clear messaging from the TAC, from the committee, regarding surface percolation. And I'll talk about surface percolation because it was part of the TAC meeting also, that surface percolation using recycled water the suggestions are that it should probably likely be moved down in the ranking to a lesser ranking based upon some of the issues with surface water percolation, certainly with recycled water and limited supplies. So that is the report on the recycled water program where we're at. Again, I'll remind everybody, we do have an active and very cooperative working together technical team working on this that includes the city and their consultants and the water district and their consultants and our office meeting tomorrow. So move on to the next slide. Surface percolation replenishment report. I will let the board, the staff, and the audience know that we received some very good comments from TAC members early in December. That certainly caught my eye and piqued my interest on where we're going and what we're doing, and making sure that we are going the right direction, doing the right thing on any work we're doing for this groundwater authority. It prompted me to suggest to the TAC and to the staff that we probably ought to have a TAC meeting. If we're not going to do it in person, have it remote. But we need input from all TAC members on some of the comments that we received. Basically, how we go forward on the surface percolation replenishment study and report. Some of the concerns expressed involved basic conceptual and real technical feasibility of surface percolation in the Indian Wells Valley Basin. Understanding that we all knew that they're going in, because there's been other studies, there's been other work, these are all documented in the phase 1 study, that it was going to be difficult. Understanding and reminding everybody that the intent here was to fully vet the feasibility of surface percolation in this basin, take advantage of the prior work that's been done to make sure it's documented, and then make some decisions of where we go from here, and either move forward on a project, a pilot project, or put it to bed, see where we need to go, but basically get it done and get it documented forever hold your peace type thing with the technical folks working in this basin right now. So that was the intent of the work. The comments that we got were important comments that involved feasibility concerns, just basically hydrogeology, the geologic structure of the basin, the aquifer, and the distance between the ground surface and surface percolation and the groundwater table, and the difficulty to get water from the surface down to that, down to the groundwater table where you have effective recharge. The losses incurred, the losses related to trying to saturate an aquifer to establish a hydraulic communication between the surface and the groundwater table, very difficult. Prior pilot programs or prior demonstration programs demonstrated that, the difficulty. Concerns certainly in the El Paso area with the geologic structure, the disconnection, or certainly the impediments between the El Paso Basin and the main basin and how water moves in the basin. Again, geologic structure and concerns with these restrictions. We have concerns expressed regarding the amount of water that might be needed, continuous flow to establish hydraulic communication between the surface percolation actually occurring and the groundwater table. That lost water, continuous flow. We don't have that kind of water in the Indian Wells Valley Basin. Certainly we don't have that kind of water available from the recycled water program, even with the upgrades. So the big concern there. A little bit off the topic, but definitely related. The import of water project that's being looked at, just not making any forecast, any firm forecast, but it looks like one of the primary projects is likely to be treated water to the basin. If we get able to get imported water into this basin, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense to take treated water and put it in the ground. We need to figure out a better way to use it than that. It's not very cost effective. So availability of raw water, wastewater, raw water, untreated water for a surface percolation program certainly creates many concerns. So as a result of the discussion, and we had good participation, and I'll talk about the participants when I do a brief TAC report later. We had good participation. The consensus of the committee really was that it's time to pull together the work that's been done in phase one. There's some shoring up of some of the work that's been done there to make sure it's properly documented, and we've got good comments on that. The consensus was we should provide a scope approach, an anticipated approach to additional work should it be warranted at some time. And this involves additional hydrogeologic study, maybe some borings, maybe some surveys to determine a little more information about the El Paso Basin. But basically, the recommendation from the committee was let's document it, let's circle the wagons, pull this study together, let's put together an approach should the TAC committee or the board or the interest decide that it's warranted to do more work on something like this. At least we have an initial roadmap of where we would go, so we wouldn't leave anything undone. So that's the direction we have from the TAC on the surface percolation report. And Steve Wright, a hydrogeologist, engineer, geologist, hydrogeologist, who's basically running this project, he's got that message loud and clear, and he's preparing an outline of the work to be done to basically, as we described, circle the wagon, shore up the report, and move on. So that is the surface percolation replenishment report. I will move on to the shallow well impact mitigation program. I took the time to put this out in front of the TAC because I really wanted TAC input so we could move this along. It's an important program. We got good input from the TAC again, and I think input enough to move forward. And my approach with the staff would be to make the adjustments suggested by the TAC, and hopefully be able to bring this to the board for review and decision at the February meeting. On the basic shallow well impact mitigation program and the policy that was put together. The TAC was complimentary on the policy in that it was brief enough and simple enough to understand. Put the responsibility on the GA staff, the technical staff, to prepare a staff report if there was an application for shallow well impact assistance, evaluation assistance. So that's all good. We got good compliment there, good compliments on where we were at there. One of the concerns was that 90 days is too long. So we'll make some adjustments there. And what we're going to do there is primarily make it clear that there will be a certain timetable for the staff to prepare a staff report based upon receipt of completed application and complete information. So the concern about the 90 days was we really can't write a report until we're sure we have everything. So we're going to make it clear that we need to get everything, communicate that we have everything we need, and then certainly shorten the amount of time to produce a staff report quite a bit. So that's a comment on the current policy. The other comment, which has been voiced multiple times by multiple people, including the PAC and the public, is that there needs to be more detail. The other thing we added in this draft is we did add emergency application provisions so that an impacted shallow well owner could make application to the board for emergency assistance without providing much description of what that involved. There was a discussion about potential emergency water hauling or emergency technical support or something like that, or emergency interconnection, something like that. But we didn't provide that kind of detail in the redraft of the shallow well impact mitigation policy. So TAC comments were it's important to provide more detail there and information on turnaround time. So I'll let the board and the staff know, and certainly the TAC, that I have already prepared a sort of a supplement, an emergency application supplement to this policy that we've already drafted that provides more of that detail, and it follows, and this will be for the board to decide. Staff can prepare it to the board. It'll be a board decision, and certainly there will be public comment provided, TAC comment at the board meeting. But under this supplement for emergency application, it involves certainly a shorter timetable. It involves direct access to the general manager for an application with expedited turnaround time. Certainly, we would be there for technical support to the general manager. It involves the board potentially allocating funding for the general manager to be responsible for allocation for immediate assistance. And it describes some of the different, not all of them because we don't know what an emergency might be, but certainly some examples of what emergency conditions might warrant an application for emergency support. So that will be a supplement to the policy because I didn't want to mess with the policy that we're pretty good with. And then if the board decides to add that, it could be included or it could be kept as a supplement. But that'll be coming back to the, excuse me, hopefully to the board for the February meeting. If there's anything else, I think that covered it pretty well. Next item is policy on temporary water use. This again has been talked about for multiple meetings. I'll remind everybody that this policy on temporary water use was put together collaboratively between the Groundwater Authority Legal Counsel Keith Lemieux and Water District Legal Counsel Jim Worth. They worked together on it, and that's the product you see right now is their product, and I think everybody's pretty happy with that. It's been to the PAC. It's been out to the PAC. It's been to the TAC. We've got concerns. The public has seen it. We've got different kinds of concerns. Where we're at right now is it is on the agenda. It should be on the agenda. We've communicated with David Janis on this. It's on the agenda for the next PAC meeting, and the request is to provide written recommendations, suggestions to the policy. We've had a lot of people come. I'm not using this derogative. Complain about things they didn't like about the policy, and that's fine. But right now, at this point, we're asking the PAC to bring back real, solid recommendations of what should be done, that they feel should be done to change what's in that temporary policy. So we should have that back from the PAC, and then again bring that to the board at the February meeting. So that takes me through what I was going to present, I believe. I do have Heather Steele on the line. I think Heather is on, and she was going to walk through our last water resource manager slide on the annual report, an update on where we're at and some of the things that have happened since the last GA board meeting. Heather, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you, Heather.
Okay, so the water year 2021 annual report is currently being finalized, the draft of that report, and it is in steps and review. It will be distributed to the TAC members for review and their comments. It was originally scheduled for this Monday. We are still in review of it right now, and so I believe it probably won't get out. It'll be probably a few days later, middle of next week, that we'll get it to the TAC members, and they'll have significant time to review. I know that was a large comment we got, a significant comment we got about the last annual report, that the TAC members wanted more review time, so that they will certainly have that with this report. We did previously receive very valuable and constructive written comments on last year's Water Year 2020 annual report. Many of these comments were on the TSIM polygon method that's used to estimate the changes in groundwater storage. We also got several comments relating back to the GSP with the water budgets that we show in the annual reports, comparing that to how we present the water budget in the original GSP. So we have received these comments. We've incorporated these comments into the draft, changes into the draft, and we are going to be providing written responses to those comments that we received, and those will also be distributed to the TAC members and posted for the public, so that you will have those when you review this year's Water Year annual report. I do want to also acknowledge that we did receive those comments from Director Retora too, and so those are some of those that we will be specifically addressing. So the Water Year 2021 report, like I said, it's going to incorporate those comments. It's going to provide an update on all the projects and management actions and all the data collection efforts that were completed in this past water year. And as a requirement from the DWR regulations, it will give the updates on groundwater level data, groundwater storage data, and water supply data. The entire annual report will be presented to the board at the March meeting. It'll be a comprehensive presentation documenting everything that's in the report. That's the entire update.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you. And Chairman Peters, just to add one more thing, and then we'll shortly open up to questions or comments. And this is, I'm not meant to direct it to any one person, but Director Retora has provided, as Heather pointed out, has provided comments for different things multiple times on last year's annual report and concerns. And I, as Heather pointed out, we're going to respond to those, not only addressing those in this year's report, but also respond to those. So you're going to see that. I want to make sure, this is for Director Retora, I want to make sure, Director Retora, if there's anything else that you think it should be addressed that you haven't already described, because I didn't get to watch the Water District Board meeting that you just said. I will go back and look at it, but if there's things that that you may have concerns about that are being expressed at the Water District Board that you have not already expressed it, if you've already expressed it to them, we're fine. We've got all those. We're going to address that. But if there's things that you've expressed to your board at the Water District that are any different than what you've already given us, please provide those, because that's the best way for us to get on the same page. And with that, I think we're good to answer questions or comments.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Would any members of the public like to comment on the Water Resource Manager's report?
I'm Don Decker, member of the TAC. I'd like to give Mr. Johnson a really good score on summarizing the TAC meeting, which was actually, a lot of detail was gone over. We've been held up for so long in getting together, and there aren't that many of us that are still active. The total work load that's been on us, as has been the case for Stetson engineers, has been actually quite heavy. And I want this board to realize that the active members of the TAC are still very much engaged. That's what I have to say for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public like to comment? Okay, seeing none in here, we'll go to the phones. Okay, caller, go ahead.
Hello. This is Renee West-Delusk. I just have a question. When Heather Steele mentioned the annual water budget is included in the annual report that goes to DWR, does that include that allotment of sustainable yield of how the 7650 is divided up between the different water users?
No, Renee, that's not part of that.
Yeah, Renee, this is Steve too. The question you asked earlier, which is related to this one, the answer is yes. We are in the process of doing very similar to what we did last year. We have a letter going to the Navy. We get reported Navy production during the year through our data collection program. We get it from them, monthly, quarterly, so we have that. But in order to do what you described as the allocation for the upcoming year, we'd like to get formally from the Navy their report. Last year, their report matched our reporting during the year, so everything was good. We want to make sure the numbers are the same before we do that allocation for 2022. And yes, that is coming.
Thank you.
Okay, next caller, please. Go ahead. Caller, go ahead.
Yes, this is Wes Katzenstein.
Yes, sir.
Am I on now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Yes, I'm a member of the PAC, and I'd like to comment on the shallow well mitigation program comments that Stephen Johnson made. First of all, I feel very good about what I'm hearing, recognizing that shallow well has a problem, it's an emergency, and they need help right up front to be sure they do the right things in repairing their well so they can be reimbursed for allowed expenses. And one other thing I'd like to remind you of is that there is a possibility if a shallow well fails that there may be other wells about to fail in the same neighborhood. And I would suggest that the emergency response should also be to take a look in neighboring wells and see if maybe some broader scale of remediation is going to be needed for a larger neighborhood. And just to be sure that that comment didn't fall through the cracks, the comment I made recently at I believe, the last GA meeting. So that was my comment.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
And if I might, Chairman Peters, Wes, thank you very much. That comment, we haven't forgot, believe me. That was actually a fairly substantial part of the detailed shallow well impact analysis evaluation policy that we had. When we had all of the detail, that was certainly in there, that whenever we had an issue, it was to look regionally, not only at other impacts, but regionally at potential solutions. Make sure that we're not just fixing a well when it might be easier to run a service line from a water district or a mutual or something. Just look at it regionally, not look at it just that well. So we would be doing that whether or not it's a regular application for an impact analysis or an emergency is looking at that. But thank you very much.
Great. I like what I'm hearing.
Okay. Thank you. Next caller, please. Okay. Seeing none, we'll now go to the general manager's report.
I think. Could the board?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry there, Mr. Director Rotora.
Yes, I would like to add, jumping way back to the recycled water program. I was curious, are any of the portions of the report currently on the website for the PAC and the public to look at?
I don't, April, do you know that answer? Because Joseph's not here. I don't know if it is.
No, we don't put those kinds of drafts just all on the website yet, unless it was included in a PAC agenda or a district, or I'm sorry, a board agenda, it wouldn't be on the website because it's kind of still changing.
Well, yeah, well, of course, that's the purpose of getting it out for review, is because it is changing. I would encourage you to make sure, I mean, I'm very happy to see the TAC is engaged and the PAC is engaged. That does not replace the public input. So I guess from now on your future reports, if you could include when the various sections will be put on the website for the public. And in some cases, the TAC gets it, but the PAC doesn't, and vice versa. So it's important that actually both groups also get it. So again, in the future, if you would just keep in mind that the public is out there and they are interested, even though we don't have a large group here today for a lot of other reasons. It's important to keep the public involved. And then jumping on to the annual report, at the last meeting, I asked whether or not we had solved the problem of getting the well measurements read for this next annual report. And I believe the answer was you'd have to look into that. So I'm curious, did we get a full complement of 41 well readings for this latest annual report?
Yes, we certainly got more measurements than we did in the previous water year. I believe I don't have that number off the top of my head. I believe it might have been 38 wells that we're using for the polygons instead of the original 41, but I'd have to double check on that.
Okay, well, that's certainly better than we had last year, but I guess I want to emphasize if the process requires 41 well measurements, we really need to figure out some type of way to mitigate the problems that we've got so that we actually can get 41 well measurements. Second of all, with regard to the annual report, I believe it states that the report will be put out in mid-January and posted on the website, and I want to verify that that really is the intent, to get that report on the website at the same time that the TAC members get it.
Yes.
That was a yes? Yes. These old ears don't hear real good, and these speakers do not respond real good. Okay, great. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. That ends my comments.
Thank you. Any other comment from the directors? Anybody on the phones have any comment? Okay. Now we'll go to the general manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have in the packet the financial report through November. Not too different from what you saw last month, and I think everything's looking good. Please let me know if you have any questions. Next, we have a report in the packet from Capital Core Group, and we also have, I believe, Michael McKinney on the phone who can give us the highlights of that report. Michael, are you there?
Yes, I am, Carol. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, directors and members of the public. Capital Core, over the course of December, of course, continued its work with the imported water sellers that we are in current negotiations with, and we'll be giving a more detailed update to you probably within the next session. In addition, the implementation now of the infrastructure bill, or what is known as the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, is underway in Washington, D.C., and we are actively engaging with the U.S. EPA and with the Bureau of Reclamation, getting scoping meetings for the 3 active projects, which include the wastewater treatment plant, the water recycling plant, and the interconnection project. Our purpose in those scoping meetings, of course, is to look for programmatic funding opportunities and applications and awards where we will be eligible. We've identified several areas there in your packet, and we are active in those negotiations and discussions with them at this particular point. We are also working on implementation guidelines for new projects and new programmatic funding areas that they may have. As you are aware, and as we had predicted, last year's NDAA, or National Defense Authorization Act, did not include the amendment to the Defense Community Infrastructure Pilot Program to allow projects that are located on a military installation under leased land to be eligible for the DSIP funding. We are going to actively engage with the Armed Services Committee and the members of our delegation to get those amendments into this year's bill. In addition, we are working on Sigma program eligibility on the state level, and as you're aware, we have pretty much at this point turned that application over to Stetson. We are in also active negotiations and working on the 2022-2023 budget, and the governor has identified $5.2 billion in additional funds for the budget this year to be put forward to water infrastructure, and we are working on the various pots that are currently in negotiation and making sure that we have eligibility for our programs. That pretty much completes our report for December and what our activities will be in January. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Michael. Any questions for Michael before we move on?
Any questions from the board? No. Doesn't look like it.
Okay. And then finally, just a quick report on our Wolf Hansen efforts, our bond efforts. Basically, we'll just let you know that staff is working with our financing team to continue to determine the most cost-effective way to finance our project, our water rights acquisition. We may have something for you for the board to take action on in February. Not sure yet. Might have a formal presentation, but we're working on it. So that's our report, and that's my report. Any questions?
Great, thank you. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on the general manager's report?
Yes, this is Judy Decker. I'm speaking now as a private citizen. I do think that the board and the public of the Indian Wells Valley is really getting their money's worth out of Capitol Corps. When one reads the news, it appears that Washington, D.C. is always in a state of chaos, and I think they have done an excellent job for this valley, and I thank them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. I totally agree with your comment.
Any other members of the public would like to make a comment? Okay. Any comments from the board? Okay, moving to our item number 7, that is the PAC attack report.
There was no PAC meeting in December as the schedule Christmas, so we did not meet, and we were unable to find an alternative day available that we could address the two issues that I reported last time that were the high priority issues for us to address, and we're going to take lengthy meeting with all the PAC members. Those two items were the communication and engagement plan, the final report of our subcommittee, and organization of the full committee's input back to you on that. And I believe the most important part of that is identifying the critical, essential elements for clarification to the public that we have long discussed. And we hope to have that completed at the next PAC meeting. on the 26th. The second item was that temporary water use policy that Steve addressed during his portion, Water Resource Manager address, and we will be discussing the specific items regarding that and our concerns, as well as the specific recommendations will both be included out of that meeting. So that meeting will be on the 26th in here the night following the Water District's adjudication workshop here. And one additional thing I'd like to report, I've received a tentative indication that Nick Panzer is resigning from his post representing the residential users. I intend to confirm that with him personally and relay that, but we'll need a new representative if that is the case.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Janus. Are there any public comments on the PAC and TAC report?
Chairman Peters, this is Steve. If I could, I'd just give a real brief TAC report because I covered most of it under Water Resource Manager.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
Just really brief. I don't want to be repetitive, but, well, first of all, I hope Nick Panzer, I hope, even if he's going to resign from the PAC, I hope he stays engaged because Mr. Panzer certainly provided a valuable input and comments to everything we do water related in the basin. So with that, but for the TAC, we don't have a chair. Eddie Teasdale was the vice chair when we stopped having in-person meetings, so we all agreed Eddie would chair the meeting, and Eddie did a great job. I don't think he's on the call. I don't know, but I don't think he's on the call. But Eddie did a great job. Other members included Tim Parker, consultant for the Water District, Don Decker, who you heard earlier, Charlotte Baldwin with the Navy, and Steve McRockos with Cyrils. Those are our primary active members. Michelle Anderson with Kern County Water Agency is a non-voting member, but she participated. Public membership, public involvement, Renee Westeles. Obviously, Renee always provides good input and good comments. I mean, I just got to tell the folks in the basin, Renee's an amazing lady, how she keeps up with all this stuff. And I have not seen one thing that she's commented on that she wasn't right on top of. So amazing. And then certainly we've got Nick and Judy Decker and Wes Katzenstein and Lyle and a whole bunch of other people that were involved. So it was a very good meeting. I thought it went well. If we're not having a meeting and being Zoom, I thought it went well. I think we will have more doing that. It worked out pretty well, and it was not a big burden on staff or staff cost to the Groundwater Authority. And I'm working on notes right now, and I'll let the PAC members know. I mean, the TAC members know. You should be seeing draft notes from that meeting. Worst part will be the first part of next week, but hopefully later this week. And that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, now we'll take public comment.
Thank you for the compliment, Steve. This is Judy Decker. And this time I'm speaking as a representative for the Eastern Kern County Resource Conservation District and being a PAC member. The PAC meeting will be on January 27th because the adjudication meeting is on January 26th. And I think Mr. Manos' comments today and comments you've had in the past have shown that there is a lack of communication with the population in this valley. I don't know how you're going to solve the problem because people have gotten away from taking the newspaper. They've even gotten away from using their computers to look up, for instance, the website of the Water District, the website of the city, and the website of this organization. They rely on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. To me, these sites are like the old-fashioned party line on a telephone where people hear a click or a certain ring and they pick up their receiver and they listen in to bits and pieces of what everyone is saying, whether it's gossip or truth or lies or whatever. And so I think one of your goals for this year should be improved communication. You will have to decide how you can best do it. Having this board meeting in the middle of the day has automatically eliminated a lot of working people. And the only thing that currently has people excited is the adjudication lawsuit by the Water District. But you need to find a positive way to communicate with your limited finances. And the other comment I have to make is about Steve's earlier report on surface percolation. This is the desert. This is a really dry place. I would guess that in recent years, our rainfall has been even less than Death Valley's. So when you spread water on the surface of the ground, it's going to evaporate faster than it percolates. And of course, for all of you who live here, if you put your shovel in the ground, you know it doesn't go very far because of clay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on PAC and TAC report? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Any comments? No. Okay. All right, with that, we'll go to item number 8, and that's closing comments. Is there any comment from the board? Let's start down here. Director Rotora?
Yes. The Water District will be sponsoring a second adjudication workshop on January 26th in this room at 6 p.m. It's very important. I hope in the meantime everybody is actually reading the announcement or the letter that went out on the adjudication. It's a very important letter, and we need to get as many people as possible to contribute and to participate. In the meantime, I would like to encourage a lack of speculation. There's been a lot of speculation going on in lots of venues, and none of it helps. The only true source of information is the letter that people received, as well as the Water District website that has a button for adjudication, and internal to that button there is a button for contacts that lists the email address for both of the Water District attorneys. If you have a real question, rather than just continuing the speculation, address those real questions to the proper place, which is the lawyers for the Water District. Second comment is the DWR has had our GSP now for 23 and a half months. I firmly believe that we will be getting a response prior to January 31st, a couple weeks from now. I would like to see an agenda item summarizing the content of that report at our next meeting. Not trying to address anything, whether the report come back as positive or negative, but just a summary for the public as to what DWR thinks of our GSP. Those are my only two comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Heyman?
No further comments.
All right, thank you. Any of our directors on the phone? Director Ittmeyer, Director Vallejo?
No comments from me.
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that concludes today's meeting. Our next meeting will be held February 9th, 2022. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Okay. All right, well, we are adjourned.
Thank you.